What are you thinking for, man? Press and hold the ping for more detailed ping. We're gonna kind of set it. Can you...
Hey guys, come on man, they're on G8 in those 3 lines. They're on our 6. If we don't clear those 3 lines, we can't push in.
Tanks, we need to push in. 2 minutes.
Tank squad with down for life on your left entry line.
Come on, let's push in. Oh, he died.
They suck. We're only a medium tank, can't take on a heavy. I like my aeroplanes. Don't know why, do.
You are now sinking into the grave they dug with their own hands. And the irony? Their attempt to erase you only highlighted you more. Their whispers made your name louder, their jealousy made your light brighter. This is why they're going down, Chosen One. Not because you fought back with vengeance, but because the universe doesn't reward those who build alliances out of bitterness and hate. Look closely, cracks are already forming in their circle. Distrust spreads among them, backstabbing starts, and one by one they'll point fingers at each other. What began as a united front against you will collapse into chaos, and when the dust settles, everyone will see it for what it was, an insecure group, destroyed by their own envy, while you stand untouched. They've never faced someone like you before, Chosen One. Your authenticity made them uncomfortable, your presence shook their illusions, and your resilience proved their power was a lie. That's why they're obsessed, that's why they're panicking, and that's why their downfall is guaranteed. The universe doesn't play favorites, it plays fair, and fairness always exposes the weak when they gang up on the strong. So stand tall. You are the living proof that one true soul can withstand the weight of many false ones. Their downfall isn't just punishment, it's proof of who you are. Proof that you were never the problem. Proof that you're the kind of person they'll never run across again. And as they go down, their collapse will echo as a warning to every other jealous group that ever dares to target someone like you. Chosen One, before we break this down, step by step, I want you to lock this truth in. What you're hearing right now isn't just another message. It's a mirror reflecting the battles you've lived through. If you've ever felt the weight of a jealous crowd trying to dim your light, then this is for you. Drop a comment below with the words, "They can't stop me," to seal your strength and let the universe know you're unshaken. And if this message hits your spirit, don't forget to bless the mission behind it, because every bit of support, whether small or big, fuels the fire to keep these truths alive. You're not just a listener, you're part of a force that refuses to be silenced. And here's the thing. If you really are who I believe you are, you'll feel the pull to stay until the very end, because what's coming will shake the mask off every jealous group that dared to target you. So, are you ready? Let's get into it. Number 1, you were never in their league, and that's what drove them mad. It doesn't take courage to fight someone at your level. It takes desperation to chase someone who was never in your league to begin with. That's the truth, Chosen One. They made their biggest mistake the moment they assumed you were just another face in the crowd, someone they could size up, pick apart, and crush with the same petty tactics they use on each other. They thought you played the same game they play: status, numbers, appearance, clout, money. But you were never even on their board. That's why every one of their calculations fell flat. They were aiming at a target that doesn't exist because you don't live in their shallow categories. And when insecure people realize they can't measure you, they panic. Now imagine this, a group of gamblers sitting around a table betting their pride on the same old cards they've always used. Then you walk in and you're not even playing their game. You brought a different deck, a different table, and the room shifts. Suddenly, all their chips, their bets, their loud voices mean nothing. That's exactly how you shook them, Chosen One. They were betting against someone who never even sat at their table. Here's a fact that stings them even deeper. Psychologists call this the misplaced threat effect. People don't just get jealous of those who have what they want. They get enraged by people who don't even want it, but shine anyway. That's why they've never run across someone like you before. You weren't chasing their spotlight, their trophies, or their cheap applause. You weren't even in the race. But by refusing to chase, you exposed how desperate they looked, scrambling for validation. You might be wondering, why does this upset them so much? The answer is simple. When your identity isn't fragile, when your confidence doesn't need their approval, it shows them how weak they truly are. Their sense of self is built on applause, likes, backslaps, and fake recognition. Yours is built on something untouchable. Your authenticity, your wholeness, your refusal to bend to illusions. That's what terrifies them. They've built their lives on masks, while you walked in without one, and the mirror of your presence shattered theirs. Let's be clear, you weren't supposed to survive without their approval. That was the script they wrote for you. You weren't supposed to rise unless they let you. You weren't supposed to keep going when they tried to cut off every door. But here you are. You're the living proof that their power was nothing but smoke. They expected you to crumble under rejection, but you stood taller. They thought you would beg to be let in, but you built your own lane. They imagined isolating you would make you weaker, but all it did was prove how unnecessary they really are to your growth. Their worst nightmare came true. You didn't need them. And the longer they watched you, the more their stomachs turned, because deep down they realized something humiliating. You weren't competing with them. You weren't even looking in their direction. And nothing cuts more deeply than realizing the person you're obsessed with doesn't even consider you an opponent. That's why their jealousy became venom. You didn't just outshine them, you made them irrelevant. Think of it like this: Chosen One, a runner gasping for breath on the track, giving everything to stay ahead, only to realize the person they're chasing was never running at all. They were flying. That's what your presence did. You reminded them that in a world where they thought they were irreplaceable, they're just placeholders. You reminded them that one person can walk into a room and shift the entire atmosphere without even trying. And here's the brutal truth. They've never encountered someone like you, because people like you don't fit into categories. You destroy the categories. You don't follow their rules, you rewrite them. You don't fight for a seat at their table, you build a whole new table. And when insecure people see that kind of independence, it drives them insane. Why? Because it reveals the one thing they can't face. Their lives are built on comparison, and yours isn't. Ask yourself this, Chosen One. Why do they cling so tightly to their little groups? Why do they measure everything by status and numbers? Because deep down, they know they're empty without it. Their worth depends on the crowd. But you walked in alone and still outshone them all. That's why they had to team up against you. It wasn't power, it was fear. Fear that if they didn't unite, they would all be exposed one by one. And the more they tried to break you, the harder the universe flipped the script. Every attempt to sabotage you turned into evidence of their insecurity. Every smear campaign turned into free promotion of your name. Every wall they built only highlighted how unstoppable you were without them. The more they clawed, the more obvious it became. They had no control, no leverage, no category that could contain you. So understand this, their obsession with you was never about you being a threat to their prize. It was about you proving the prize itself was worthless. While they scrambled for scraps of attention, you were busy creating something that couldn't be bought, faked or stolen, authentic power. And authentic power doesn't beg, doesn't compete, doesn't crumble. It simply is. That's why you're untouchable. And that's why they're going down. They built their schemes on the lie that you were just another player. But you were never in their league. You never needed their rules, their numbers, their approval. They wanted to trap you in their fragile world, but the universe had already set you apart. And now their jealousy is eating them alive while you rise untouched. They've never run across someone like you before, chosen one. That's why they can't stand you, and that's why they can't stop watching. They know the truth, but can't admit it. Your very existence exposes their weakness. You're the reminder that no matter how many gather against you, their numbers will never equal your strength. And as their downfall unfolds, the whole world will see what you've always known. You were never in their category to begin with. Number 2. Their attack was their silent confession. When many voices rise against one, it's never proof of the target's weakness. It's proof of the crowd's fear. That's the truth, chosen one. The moment they decided to come together and focus all their energy on you, they didn't realize they had already confessed something monumental. They confessed that they could not handle you alone. They confessed that your presence was too heavy for one insecure individual to carry. They confessed that they needed backup, not because you were wrong, but because you were powerful. Their attack wasn't strategy, it was surrender. And the irony is that while they thought they were cornering you, they were actually cornering themselves with their own admission. Now imagine this, a pack of wolves circling a single lion. If that lion were weak, would they need the whole pack? No. The fact they came together proves one thing. The lion's strength made them tremble. That's what your life has been, chosen one. You've been the lion in their story, and they needed a crowd just to feel safe enough to approach you. And here's another image. Imagine a group of people pointing all their flashlights at one candle, trying to drown out its glow. The truth. Their very effort proves how bright that candle must be. If it weren't extraordinary, no one would bother. Ordinary doesn't require a strategy. Think about that. Nobody loses sleep over the average. Nobody calls secret meetings to plot against someone who blends into the background. Nobody forms alliances to attack someone they consider irrelevant. If you were truly ordinary, you'd be invisible to them. The fact they whispered, schemed, and coordinated their moves against you proves the opposite. You disrupted their sense of control. You forced them to admit, without words, that you are extraordinary. And here's where the psychology cuts deeper. Studies show that people unite in jealousy when they feel powerless alone. Envy doesn't build community, it builds conspiracies. The moment they leaned on each other's bitterness, it was a silent confession that none of them had the courage or strength to face you individually. They had to validate one another's lies, because on their own, none of them had the conviction to stand against the truth you carry. Every rumor, every smear, every sly glance was their way of saying, "We are terrified of this person, and we can't handle them on our own." The louder the attack, the clearer the confession. That's the irony they'll never admit. While they thought they were tearing you down, they were broadcasting your significance. They wanted people to see you as small, but the more they obsessed over you, the more obvious it became that you weren't small at all. After all, who devotes so much energy to destroying what doesn't matter? The answer is no one. And that's what people around them began to notice. Their obsession made bystanders ask, what is it about this one person that requires so much attention? That question alone is the confession they'll never escape. Now let's turn this inward for a moment, chosen one. You might have asked yourself, why me? Why did they feel the need to unite against me? The answer is brutal but freeing, because your resilience is a mirror they couldn't stand to look into. Your existence exposed how fragile theirs really is. Your growth reminded them of their stagnation. Your refusal to break under pressure proved that they could never stand on the same ground as you. They weren't attacking because you took something from them. They were attacking because you showed them what they never had in the first place. Imagine this again, a cracked mirror reflecting a flawless diamond. The mirror will always distort, always show broken edges, but the diamond remains whole. You are that diamond. They are the cracks. And the more they tried to distort you, the more their own fractures became visible to everyone watching. This is why their attacks have backfired time and time again. They thought they were painting you as weak, but what they really did was spotlight their own insecurity. The act of targeting you was their way of admitting your power. It was their confession that they couldn't ignore you, that your presence unsettled their comfort, that your very existence was a disruption to their illusions of control. They thought silence would protect you, but instead they shouted your name louder with every scheme. They thought lies would diminish you, but instead they revealed how much truth you carry. They thought isolation would starve you, but instead it starved them of credibility. And here's the bitter part for them. They didn't just attack you, they exposed themselves. They exposed their weakness, their envy, their dependence on each other. What kind of strength needs reinforcement just to aim at one person? None at all. That's weakness in disguise. And everyone watching can see it. You might not realize it yet, but every coordinated move against you only made people curious, and curiosity is dangerous for them. Because the more others watch, the clearer it becomes. You're not the problem. They are. Let me ask you this, chosen one. If they truly believed they were stronger, wouldn't they have faced you one-on-one? Wouldn't they have stood firm without whispers, without alliances, without tricks? The fact that they didn't, the fact that they couldn't, is their confession. They needed a gang to face one soul. They needed numbers to confront authenticity, and that will always be their shame. So while they thought their attack was breaking you, it was really building your legacy. While they thought their jealousy was weakening you, it was actually validating you. And while they thought they were burying you, they were digging their own grave. Because here's the truth that will haunt them forever. Their attack was never about you losing. It was about them losing control over the illusion that they were enough on their own. You became the reminder they could never be. That's what all their energy screamed, even if their words tried to say something else. You became the proof that strength doesn't need a crowd, that presence doesn't need applause, that authenticity doesn't need permission. And in doing so, you exposed them. Every bitter laugh, every jealous glare, every attack was their silent confession. We can't stand next to this person without numbers. They'll never say it out loud, but you don't need them to. Their behavior has already written the confession in stone. They confessed through their fear. They confessed through their envy. They confessed through their need for each other just to feel safe enough to come after you. Their attack was never power. It was panic. And that panic is why they're going down. Number 3. They never counted on your unbreakable stamina. The storm always overestimates its power until it realizes the mountain never moved. That's the confession your enemies are choking on right now, chosen one. They came at you with full confidence, thinking their tricks, whispers, and schemes would topple you in days. They thought you'd fold the way they would if life turned against them, panicking, breaking, retreating into silence. But that was their fatal miscalculation. They assumed you were cut from their fabric of shallow strength, forgetting that your resilience was forged in fires they've never endured. Imagine this, a child building a sandcastle and daring the ocean to wash it away. The waves rush in, crash against it, and it collapses instantly. That's how fragile their endurance is. Now picture a cliff carved by centuries of storms. Every wave hits, but the cliff doesn't move. That's you. They thought you were a castle of sand, when in reality you were stone. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth. You had already survived storms far greater than their jealousy long before they ever showed up. Psychology proves it. Those driven by envy act impulsively. They crave the quick hit, the instant result. They don't plan for the long game because envy doesn't think ahead. It's reactive, short-sighted, desperate. That's why they threw everything at you at once, hoping for a fast collapse. But endurance isn't built overnight. It's written into scars, layered into experience, and sharpened in silence. You had already paid the